Good afternoon and welcome to the CleanTech Lithium PLC Investor Update. Throughout this recorded meeting, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions can be submitted anytime by the Q&A tab situated in the right-hand corner of your screen. Just simply type in your question and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question received during the meeting itself. However, the company can review all questions submitted and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. Before we begin, we'd like to submit the following poll. I'd now like to hand you over to Daniel Fox-Davids, Managing Director. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Hello and welcome on Ignacio, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. Actually, thanks for asking.
Excellent. What's going on? Well, I am back in Dubai, which has been an interesting few days, but not nearly as interesting as the last few days you had. And obviously, everybody's going to be well aware that you've now been awarded the license. Nothing like, giving yourself lots of room ahead of the deadline there. So us as the shareholders, some mild palpitations, but so as always, we welcome everybody's continued support and all the shareholders here. I think the purpose for today is to really just go through the sale and understand exactly what that means to the company, how it fits in from a regulatory point of view. We put in the RNS that it has to get the sign off from the comptroller. So maybe we could spend a bit of time on that, and then that would then lead us on to having a discussion a little bit later on about how this now impacts on the PFS, and then later on we can touch base onto the renewed ASX listing. But obviously it's been a long time coming with a few bumps in the road, but we've now been awarded the license. And so Ignacio, just for the benefit of, let's go back to 101 and basics, for the benefit of all of our shareholders and potential new shareholders. What exactly is the sale? What does it give us? And what are the next steps from here?
Well, Dan, just happy to take your question. I want a second first before answering, just to say how delighted I am to be in this position, having this webinar today. I know for all of our shareholders, it's been a long time since we started this CEOL process. Probably most of you already know in detail what the CEOL entails, but finally we can say that we have been awarded a CEOL, and now it's a transformational moment for the company as we will enter a new phase of development of the project. So thanks everyone that has maintained their confidence in the company and our ability to deliver. Okay, so going to your question, Dan, the CEOL is a special contract under Chilean law that allows you to explore, evaluate, construct, operate, do the closure of a lithium project. In Chile, you cannot extract lithium unless you have this contract. There are not many contracts that have been awarded in Chile. Actually, there are only 2 CEOLs fully awarded, one to Enami and other to Codelco, which are 2 state-owned companies. So we are the first batch of CEOLs that will be awarded to fully privately owned companies. And let me just clarify one point. I think it is important for everyone to know, and it ties to the next steps. This CEOL is not the environmental permit. That is something that we will need to obtain in order to begin the construction and operational phase of our project, but it is a huge milestone and one of the first in the history of the country.
Fantastic. So what is it, actually, just remind me again, what does the CEOL actually stand for in Spanish?
In Spanish is Contrato Especial de Operación de Litio. The L is for lithium. So in translated, it would mean it's a special operations contract for lithium. And it allows you to extract and produce lithium and sell it.
Okay, so and the key points here. So this allows us now to give certainty the fact that we can actually then go forward and explore, evaluate, construct, and develop the resource that we have. This is a 40-year contract. Now, does it specify how much we could produce or any constraints in that? I mean, I know from conversations with you, and I've been predicted that we've obviously had the draft in for this for several weeks, and they went back with some comments. Are you happy with it as in the way it's been granted? Is there anything that you were unexpected or?
So the CEOL contains all the commercial and administrative matters of the relationship between the parties for 40 years. So it contains royalties and other obligations. It is in line with the already awarded CEOL, so there were no surprises there. And as you say, it provides us certainty for 40 years to develop this project, from the very initial exploration that we have already done, but on to closure.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's come back. So one of the questions here, I'm looking at the live questions that come along here. So one of the questions just popping up, which we can deal with now, we'll come on to the PFS, is, so this final review is required by the controller. Is there any risk in that it doesn't get reviewed? How concerned are you? Obviously, I mean, I give you a leading question here, but this is just a procedure. And then when we say the second quarter, how would you hope that would be roughly timing?
Yeah, so look, every decree in Chile, decree is an administrative act issued by a ministry, in this case by the mining ministry, has to go through a legality review by the controller's office. They just check that it is in accordance to Chilean legislation. And thankfully, CLEANTECH has piggybacked from the experience the mining ministry got from other CEOLs that it had awarded. The controller's office made some comments to those CEOLs, and now and we have been in constant communication with the ministry, and we were aware of this. So they what they mentioned is that they have already taken into consideration all the comments from the controller before sending our contract, the decree that allows the contract to the controller's office. So I would expect, we have said second quarter. I know second quarter starts in April, but it's in the 8-week time frame, somewhere within 8 to 10 weeks.
Okay, great. Well, I know how much time and effort you put in for this one there. We'll come back onto that. We'll talk about the PFS and everything else going forward. But obviously, one of the other major news has been that the new government's about to come in and take power. Do you maybe want to give a reflection and a review on that, and whether you feel that would impact us at all?
Correct. Well, actually, the new government came into office 2 hours ago at noon Chile time. Mr. Casti is already the official president and acting president of the country for the next 4 years. We have had interaction with his group since they were candidates, so we know what their priorities are and what they want to do in the broader mining sector and on the lithium sector. For us in particular, I think it is a positive change. I think this government will want to get as much investment as possible in the mining sector. In lithium, they will want to fast-track CEOLs and maybe award as many CEOLs as possible. From the permitting stage, environmental permitting stage, which is what we will look at for the future, I also believe that there might be some tailwinds for us, as they have publicly said, in line with other countries, that they want to review the permitting regulation to make it more efficient and expedite to natural resources project so they can come into production more quickly. So all in all, I think it's a positive change. This government is going to be very focused in one of their 3 priorities is the economy, and within the economy, everyone acknowledges in Chile the importance of mining.
And is it going to be the same sort of people within the mining industry, or is it like the US system where, because in the UK, obviously, we change government, a lot of the civil servants stay the same. In the US, it's a wholesale change of everybody. So how does it work in Chile in terms of the administrative side versus the political side?
In Chile, regularly, all the ministers change. Actually, the president already took the oath to all the incoming ministers. The undersecretaries, which are the second line, will also change. And from then, the rest of the people that do the work every day, most of them will stay through governments. Some might have been for example, in the mining ministry for 20 years already. So I don't expect many changes within the people in the ministry, apart from the political appointees.
Okay. Well, listen, it's always good when somebody actually gets embedded in and we can start to see how they act and take forward the new government's priorities. Right. So obviously, we've been waiting for well over a year, almost 2 years, for the sale. A lot of that was government delay. Then we had the initial false start where we didn't quite meet the criteria and the partner. We then went back. We went through the indigenous process. They reopened in January. I remember you and I sat down at the end of August in London. We're doing the last raise, and we sat across the table and I said, "Are we going to get it?" And you're like, "Dan, we're going to get it, and it'll be around about March." And we're bang on the middle of March. So this opens up the door. Obviously, we've said in a lot of previous presentations, we've had a number of parties in the data room under NDA looking at potentially coming in as the company's joint venture partner. Those companies range from automotive manufacturing companies to battery manufacturing companies to commodity traders. And a lot of them have always said, look, come back to us when you've got the sale, and also then on the PFS. And really, I should have wanted to jump on the PFS before, but let's talk about where we're going to go here on this slide here from the first phase.
Okay. Yes. So as you have mentioned, Dan, and we've said before in other webinars and also in interviews, the PFS is done. Largely done. We are just in the final round of reviews with the engineering company that is in charge of the PFS. We expect to release that PFS and the highlights by the end of the month. So it's we're just working on the final details of the drafting, etc., checking for inconsistencies. But the PFS is ready to be released, and we will release it by the end of the month. As you say, the first stage, what we've done, and we already also announced that late last year, is that we engaged Catfield Freeman as a strategic consulting company that will be supporting our effort to look for a strategic partner. And we have divided this in phases. The first phase is the pre-CEOL, pre-PFS, where we are. We have narrowed down the list of parties that have been in our data room that keep approaching us. So we have a large list of parties, also complemented by the experience and contacts of Catfield Freeman. And with that list and our PFS information and the CEOL already announced, we are in the position to start the second phase of this strategic partner process search, which is send teaser to all the parties, engage in meaningful conversations, open data rooms for all the parties so they can clarify questions that they have. And then finally, the third stage, which should be by the fourth quarter of this year, which would be the receive proposals, enter into negotiations, and close an agreement with the selected party. This is a complex negotiation because we were looking to bring someone at project level, as you know, Dan, with the capacity to support the development of this project until production, with the capacity to support not only in equity but also looking for debt and supporting the search for institutions that are looking to invest or to fund the project to production. So and also potentially looking also for offtakes that allow us to get this project through FID.
So just to clarify very well, so Catfield Freeman are financial advisors who have a lot of experience within bringing strategic partners in for various companies, but particularly they've had a great success within the lithium sector. From anybody who's coming to look at the company, the two impediments have been, one is we needed to show that we have the sale, so that we actually have the right to develop. And then secondly, anybody serious is going to want to see the PFS. But from the company's point of view, it wasn't prudent to publish the PFS because there's a certain amount of commercially sensitive information within it until we knew that we had the sale. So the sale now unlocks us to do the PFS, and the PFS and the sale now unlocked us to bring in a joint venture partner. And then just to reiterate for the clarity of everybody, we're hoping that that partner is then going to be able to help the company develop the project all the way through to production. Okay.
Exactly, Dan. And just the last comment and why this process. We have received a lot of inbounds and we continue to receive interest in the project. We believe the most value can be unlocked for our shareholders through a competitive process instead of doing one-to-one conversations with parties that have approached us. That way, I think we can get the most out of the partner that wants to to partner with us to develop the project and also look for the best partner possible for this next stage of development.
So we're hoping that, okay, so we're going to be busy Q2 and Q3 because we got some stuff that we're doing on the capital market side in Q3, which we'll come on to. And then, so the company's aim is we hopefully will be in a position to have a joint venture partner by the back end of this year, possibly early into next, but all in a relatively short time period in terms of mining production. So a lot to be optimistic for going forward. I know that you've had some recent conversations with Cutfield, and they are very excited by the project and that they've seen some of the drafts of the PFS. And again, just to explain to everybody, the PFS was all completed. We raised a lot of money for the PFS. It's a very detailed and comprehensive with a suite of partners, which are really considered the Rolls-Royce in their respective fields. There's a range of consultants that you can use. And the company from day one went out to really go with the world's leading experts. With the additional licenses last September, that expanded the area, so that PFS needed to be updated to encompass that. And it's now just in the final drafting stages, back and forth, and then has to go through a certain amount of internal sign-off. And as you said, Ignacio, the hope will be we will get that out before month end, which is only, what are we doing? Right, within the next 3 weeks.
So yeah, it's a very long, it's more than 400 pages long. So we are working page after page. Just, of course, the numbers are all frozen. It is just looking for inconsistencies on the text and that everything makes sense. But as you say, it's ready to be published and will be published by the end of the month.
And that also, just for people, that'll allow certainly ourselves and a number of other financial institution analysts to then actually start doing some detailed share price forecast performance of what we've got based on a number of assumptions around the production ones. So, right. Okay. Moving forward. Let's take ourselves onto the next slide. Do you want to run through this, Aldo? Ignacio?
Yes, sir. So well, the pre-2026 is something that everyone knows what we've done to date, the exploration campaigns, the listing, the scoping studies, the DLE pilot plant, the lithium carbonate that we produced in the US. And what comes for 2026 is the CEOL is already, the decree is out there. It's after the approval by the Controller's Office, it has to be signed by the company and the government. The PFS, as we mentioned, will be published by the end of the month. We are looking, and we can expand on this, Daniel, to restart or continue the listing process in Australia. And also, we would like to begin the preparation of our environmental impact study, which will be the next milestone that we need to achieve before getting to FID. And by the end of the year, as we also expressed in the previous slides, is finalizing the process of a strategic partnership and choosing the best partner for us, for the company, for the shareholders, in order to get this project into production. And as I've always said, we have the unique opportunity. This is what brought me to this company, to be the next company producing lithium in Chile after SQM. This year is the 30th anniversary of SQM's beginning of production. So it would be quite a major achievement for us in Chile and in CleanTech to become the next producer in the country.
Just as the market's coming back as well. Okay, to let's tell you, we have a lot of questions coming in. They take a bit longer. The slides are really useful. I know Nick puts a lot of time into them, but let's go through the last couple of ones here, and then we can we'll go back
very briefly.
Yeah.
Let me just briefly why we have this slide. These are two DLE projects. So same technology that we're using. Actually, in the case of Standard Lithium, which is the one on the left, they even have or are using the same technology in specific that we are using the same provider. So two examples of companies doing DLE that have close positive deals or have received all the funding to develop the project from institutions, not only from private parties, but also from public institutions. So the sentiment is back again. We've seen the increase in lithium price. So it's a great moment to be receiving the CEOL and pushing this project forward.
No, there's been, I mean, these are just two. There obviously have been a lot of activity and a lot of financing back in the lithium sector. And I think we're very lucky to be going into this in a strong market. And I'd rather be lucky than clever sometimes. So it's been I mean, the pricing has been, I mean, we're not going to discuss it now, so the questions, but we can maybe do it when we have a longer one, get your thoughts on the lithium market outlook. But it's been a phenomenal run in just the first, whatever it is, 2.5 months of the year. Right, so let's go over to the Q&As and we have the recap on the sizing area. So I'm going to try and group them together as much as we can. I will touch on to the ASX if that's okay, Ignacio, and then some of these here, I'll sort of direct them to you as an easy way to get in. The key one, and we had a chat earlier, and I think it's going to come up. Has the controller ever rejected a license? Do you think there's any risk now to us?
So I view this as a formality, in particular or mainly because the controller's office has already made the comments that they had on the CEOLs to the mining ministry, and that's why at some point we couldn't say much because we were under NDA. Even the fact that we were under NDA was NDA, so we could even mention that. But we talked a lot about the streamline process. We are not in the streamline process anymore. The ministry had to change it to a direct award, and that's why if you have read the news that have been out there, but in Chile in the past few weeks or months, they say 2 direct awards. One is Laguna Verde, and so we have been awarded the CEOL. We received the contract, we negotiated all the terms, and we came to an agreement, and that's where we are today. The decree with the final terms is into the controller's office, and given that we're piggybacking from others' experience, I think this should be quite expedite.
Thank you. I mean, that was our discussions. We'll look forward to getting that through. One of the things that we mentioned in the RNS today was the fact that we've removed the lake area. Now, obviously, we've discussed for a couple of years that was likely to come back for environmental. The question that people are sort of posting here is that whether that impacts on the resource or the development. I know in our conversations with you that we were never planning to actually extract from the lake itself, rather in terms of being directly on top. But I think, if I may, I think the best thing people understand is we're looking at a subsurface aquifer. So we're going to develop exactly the same resource, but from the sides. Is that correct?
The answer, Dan, is we never expected or looked at exploiting or extracting water or brine from the lagoon itself. The laguna is, you can see the picture there. It is a protected area. We, in fact, part of our objective is to put it in value, highlight its importance. And we always expected to exploit and extract brine from the subsurface aquifer that is surrounding the lagoon. So it doesn't impact our expectation of production or the reserves. Just the superficial brine cannot be extracted, and that's in line with what we always knew would happen. So there were no surprises really there. So and just to clarify, that was part of the indigenous consultation process. So it was the government with the indigenous communities that decided on these changes to the polygon, excluding the lagoon surface.
But to be fair, Ignacio, I know talking to Steve and the others, you've always expected from the very first days that it would be there. I think the key thing I can probably get to is that, does this have any impact on the amount of lithium or the resources?
It doesn't have an impact in what we can produce, Dan, at all.
Absolutely. Okay, no, I just wanted to lead it in. I think that's the gist that people were having on that one. Okay, so let me try and group these to be a little bit. There's lots of thanks from people. I will pass those on to not only Ignacio, but to Steve and to Gordon and to Dermot and Nick and the rest of the team that's there. So a couple of questions that we've got here is there's questions around whether we would start producing lithium carbonate again and how much we have got produced. Do you just want to touch on that? Obviously, we did the sample batches we sent out. We've spoken before. When would you expect to get back into sort of looking at producing through the pilot plant?
So I expect to have some more information probably in a month or so about these particular questions. As you know, last year, well, 2 years ago already in December, was when we produced our first carbonate in the US. And we continue that relationship with a company now called Empower. And we also have a relationship here in Chile with a company that is providing the technology to develop and develop the process. So Lanchen. So we are looking at 2 lines, and we expect to be in the position to share more details in a month or so.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to that update in a month's time. A couple of slightly off-topic ones here we'll do from there. Just out of curiosity from Michael B. Michael B was just asking, what happens at the end of 40 years, Ignacio?
It's the closing period. So this CEOL considers from the early exploration to the closure of the mine to make sure that everything is as what it was found, or it was before the exploitation of the mine. Obviously, as we have seen with Albemarle and SQM, there can be renegotiations and extensions in contract terms if there are enough resources. But that is something that will come to us in a few decades.
Yeah, to be honest, I expect to be long gone and out and get from there. But I think it's just a curious one they have from. Okay, so let's touch. A couple people have asked about the ASX listing. If you may, shall I just touch on that, Ignacio? And
yeah.
So yeah, I was actually in Australia just over 2 weeks ago, down meeting with the company's major shareholders and with the lawyers in anticipation of rebooting the process. We are looking at going ahead with the ASX listing, which would likely would targeting over the summer. At this point, we're just targeting a compliance listing, so that just meets the requirements to have the couple of hundred ASX guys. I think I should remember, it's either 2,000 or 2,500 Aussie. So it's a couple of $100,000 raise. The reason being is there is huge. There's a much larger active investor base in resources in Australia than in the UK. There are many other of our peer groups in Latin America doing DLE and also projects around the world listed on the ASX. There's a much broader base of analysts. On a relative value basis, we still think we're incredibly cheap. Galan, which is in Argentina, just over the border, they went out recently to raise 25 to 30 million. Within 48 hours, they had an offering of 100 million. They closed on 40. So by getting onto the ASX, it will force a number of analysts who cover Lake and Galan and the whole lithium sector to write about CleanTech Lithium. And then secondly, at the back end of 2027, when we go into final investment decision, you're likely to have a strategic partner who will put up hopefully something in the region of 60 or 70% in debt. You might have some prepayments. You might have some infrastructure financing, but there will be an equity raise most likely as you go into production. And as part of that, you want the broadest possible base of investors potentially to be able to access that. But also between now and then, I think on a relative value basis, we're going to get a much better share appreciation on the ASX. So at this point in time, we're considering a purely compliance listing to get on the market and then start actually telling the story and getting out and saying how we believe that we have a better asset in a better country with better technology and quite frankly, a better management team than a lot of the guys that are running around in Australia. So it's back on the cards, and we've put a lot of time and effort into it. Gordon and Dermot put a huge amount of time into the prospectus the other year, and again, part of the process of having the sale and the PFS allows that to go much more smoothly. Ignacio, is there anything you feel I missed there?
No, I think you covered quite well the whole justification and explanation. I just wanted to reiterate the fact that in Australia, there's a lot of know-how and in lithium mining, not only hard rock, as you find in Australia, but also Australians have important companies doing brines in South America and in the US and in Europe. and some using DLE, most using DLE. You mentioned Galan lithium. I would also say Lake Resources is kind of at the same stage that we are. And also now we have Rio Tinto that is listed in London and I think also in Australia. And Rio Tinto is also developing DLE projects in Argentina. And they also have projects in Chile. So I think there's a lot of knowledge also in Australia, and we can tap a lot of that know-how. And people, I agree with you, Dan, that we should get a re-rating once we're there and the analysts start covering us.
And just so everybody understands, I'm going to do a lot of sort of well, Ignacio and I will start once the PFS is out. Somebody was asking a question: how much is going to cost to build and commission? That's in the PFS. We can't see it here. It'll be out in about 3 weeks. If you go back to one of the previous webinars that will be on the company's website, I think it was back when the market was having a bit of a downtime. Steve did a very good webinar with me where he went through the difference between a scoping study, a PFS, and the DFS. And it was more of a sort of a 101 and less on the company. But it is quite informative. And the PFS here, there are ranges of PFS. You can have, very brief ones, you get very detailed ones. The company has put a lot of time, effort, resources and money into this PFS. It's a very detailed PFS. It's a long way towards what you would hope to get out of a DFS. So the DFS will require more work and some time, but that will give a very detailed costing analysis, and it's gone into a lot of work on the assumptions. So when we have that, that will come forward. Now, on the ASX listing, one of the requirements is the updated financials. That's being worked on at the moment. Obviously, there's been a lot going in the background. And then we need to update the prospectus with the CEOL, with the change of the license, with the increase in the number of the licenses. We'll have to update it with the PFS and slot it in. So that's going to take a couple of months, and we're hoping to get away sometime around about July, end of July, August, realistically. Okay. Right. Running through next one's questions here. Ignacio, Martin H was saying that it just said that you would need an additional license to go in.
No. Yeah, Martin. No, what I was saying is we need the environmental permit. That is pretty standard in every jurisdiction. We already have the contract that allows us to produce, but we also need to get the environmental license from the specific authority that will, contain the environmental regulation for our specific project and all the measures that we need to undertake. So there's no more mining licenses that we need. It's just the permitting process.
And the Chilean government has been obviously quite supportive about the permitting process, but it's just a necessary step that you need to take. Another question on that, on the environmental impact study, what is the sort of timeline? When would you hope to start that, Ignacio? And
it will really depend on, for me, to me, for as soon as possible. It will really depend on how we are moving forward with the PFS and the CEOL. This preparation process is 12 months, and then you submit. We have a timeline, so we know that the sooner we start with this process, the sooner we'll end with it. So we're really looking forward to, and very excited to start with that part of the development of the project.
Thank you. Okay, so running through the ones, there's a couple of specific questions up there, but let's deal with it. Michael B was asking, how many other aquifers does CleanTech hold?
We have licenses. We have a project called Viento Andino. As you know, Michael, we already published a few years ago a scoping study of Viento Andino as well, and we have a project called Arenas Blancas, which is in the vicinity, it is in the Salar de Atacama basin, and the Salar de Atacama is by far the best resource in the world in brines. So we have those licenses. We haven't done any work yet. We have been focusing on getting the CEOL for Laguna Verde, but there's clearly some upside there, upside potential in these two projects that we have in the pipeline.
And that actually comes on to another question from Steve Evans. At what stage will the process for the other salars in Chile go forward? And he just wanted to clarify, they would need their individual sales as well?
Yes, every project will need a CEOL for a specific area. I believe one of the things I mentioned at the beginning when we were talking about this new government coming into office, we believe that they will have the appetite to start delivering more CEOLs now that the system that has been tested and proven. So I think they will just want to expedite the award of new CEOLs in other areas as well. So there are other opportunities that we can look at.
Just to clarify for me, obviously, the government had chosen these 6. Will we need the government to sort of give permission that the other assets are in the areas that they want to produce first, and they will fast that for a CEOL, or can we just apply for a CEOL?
I think, Dan, that is the best question. At the moment, I cannot give you an answer because the government just started today. The 6 CEOLs that are in process are to be awarded. There are 4 more that are in tender, which means they will go to tender, meaning that's what the previous government said. And then there will be, I imagine, companies approaching the government, as will we, once now that they are in office, to discuss what other opportunities are there out there and how they intend to expedite this CEOL awarding process.
Okay, well, we will follow that, and maybe we'll have a whole session just about the other assets. I think maybe in a couple of weeks we could just refocus people's back attention, and we'll just have one talking about where that would be as a stage 2. Maybe we could do that. Well, the next one will be the PFS, and we can come back to that together, Ignacio.
Sure.
Okay, so right. Rodrigo, Andres B was asking, do we have a clear development roadmap for the next 12 months and the following 3 to 5 years around resource definition, hydrology, permitting, stakeholder engagement, infrastructure synergies? I'd like to know how you're sequencing the technical, environmental, and social milestones to de-risk a project from a very early stage. That's quite an
it's a great. Yeah, it's a great question, and let me only say, Rodrigo, that we do have a plan. We would like to do some, as I said, to begin the environmental permitting process or the preparation of the permit this year, as well as, if possible, do some additional exploration to do the reinjection test, etc. We have done a lot of the social work, as you may have read in our webpage or from our history. We have ongoing agreements with indigenous communities. They supported our application to the CEOL, so that there's a long-standing relationship there with the indigenous communities, which will come back as relevant stakeholders, as they always are. They are the most important stakeholders during the environmental permitting process, as there is also an indigenous consultation there. That's why we have secured these agreements with them very early, way before the environmental permitting process. And we have this long-standing relationship that we are sure will be of great use and very helpful when we are in the environmental permitting process. And I also want to highlight, Dan, very briefly, the other comment by Rodrigo, which is we will not only be the next producer in Chile, but only the first one using DLE, which is very, very exciting, and it's a proud moment.
No, and that's something actually that Rodrigo picked up and commented on as well, which I think actually being the first one would then, I think, potentially lead you to being able to actually work with other companies, and at least for other potential, not only within Chile, but also in neighboring countries as well. Okay, well, thanks to Rodrigo. Now, Steve, I'm not entirely sure where Steve was going here, but Steve was asking, what percentage of the brine does the lithium make up?
In general, it is not the most. I don't have the specific numbers, Steve.
1 million up to about 400 and something we had?
Sorry, Dan, I missed you there.
Well, I think, I mean, in terms of percentage of the brine, it was like, I don't know, probably the best way to answer it is by the parts per million.
It's around the 180 ppm.
Yeah.
But there are many other components in the brine, and we want to extract only lithium.
Yeah, so it makes a small one in from there. Okay. Andrew, I'll come back to you at the end. Andrew's expressed an interest. You may have some partners. I think, Andrew, you'll see on the company's website, there's an email for Ignacio there, or for the operations from the website, and you could certainly go there. If you don't get a response from that for any reason, then my email is just daniel@fox-davies.com, and I can forward it on to Ignacio. And always delighted to look and talk at any interested potential parties. Let's look at the market a second. There's a couple of questions here around there and cash and numbers. So Jonathan is asking how much we've got cash in the treasury, and will the ASX listing be the next capital raise? Jonathan, the company publishes financial ones. We're not, we can't on a webinar just do that because you'd have to put it out as an RNS. But obviously the funding last year took us through to the summer. We've actually had, even on the 11p warrants from the funding before, I've been hit with about half a dozen, and I know Dermot has, of people expressing an interest that they'd like to exercise potentially those warrants at 11p. Obviously, I think that was at the high at 15, 16, but I think with the marketing we're going to go doing and telling the story, we're in a very good position to take the company back up to the mid-high teens. So I think we may well get some additional capital in there, but we can't really discuss that without putting out a formal RNS. But at this point in time, yeah, the Australian listing is designed to be a compliance listing with a very small raise. However, if lithium goes up to 40, 50, 60 and our stock price is up at, 20, 25 again, I wouldn't want to hold the company to saying no. But at the moment, we're funded through till the summer, and then we'll do the compliance listing. Greg J is asking, where do we see the fair value? Greg, obviously, the fair value numbers, I think that was, I'm not sure if that was directed to you, Ignacio, or to me. We're doing an updated research note. We're waiting for the PFS because it would be a bit pointless to put out a note so close to the PFS and then have the PFS necessarily have the different numbers and assumptions. So we're working with the company to get that once it's in final form, and then we'll be putting out a research note. The fair value is going to be very dependent on the lithium price, long-term lithium price that we assume. So we'll be doing a matrix of valuations based on different lithium prices. And then obviously we have had some further dilution in the last couple of rounds, so we'll have to run that all through the model, but that's being worked on at the moment. I did see that Canaccord reiterated their 20 price, but I think that's just a back of an envelope flash note. They will also be waiting for the PFS for some hard and fast numbers. And the PFS is just on Laguna Verde. And as I said, people have noted here, we do have several other assets which are in no way less significant and have the potential to add just as much value to the company. It's just that they weren't on the priority list for the sale application. So this is where the company's attention has been. And I know from conversations with Ignacio that he's very keen to get back into those assets and have a look and start working again with them. But obviously, his time has been very much focused on the last couple of months around getting the sale awarded and the government relations. So great. I hope that answers your question there. And the last one was Stuart had a comment that there was a sell order for 7 million shares this afternoon. Any comment? I didn't see it. Guys, if you think and take a step back, we raised £5 million on a pre-money of £5 million. So we raised 100 million shares on 100 million shares in September. So we're just over 6 months and we're up 100 and what are we talking here? Roughly 160%. I think with this activity, I mean, 16 million shares. So we're 15% of the last raise, which given the other ones are underwater, probably be about 30% of the real free float. So I'm very happy to see new investors coming in and resetting the average price at which investors are in. I think 1.6 million shares is a fantastic volume day. And while your comment was there's a sell trade for 7 million, whenever you have a sell trade, there's a buy trade as well. The fact that we've absorbed 16 million shares in one day, which I think actually, sorry, I've got Bloomberg just on my phone here. That's why I was looking down at the pricing of the numbers. I think that might actually be the highest number of shares, and certainly close to the highest amount of volume that we've had in the whole trading. We're going to be engaging with a number of IR and interviews. There's other interviews that Ignacio's got. Ignacio and I are planning on doing a non-deal roadshow as soon as the PFS is out, mostly institutional. There's some institutions that were in the stock and then sold out that we'd like to see back on the register. There's a number of, most of the time we're going to be on the roadshow is actually going and seeing other analysts and getting Ignacio in front of them. Analysts like to not do group things. They like to sit one-on-one. So we'll be going and seeing all of the analysts that cover any of our peer groups. And I think that will actually end up resulting in a number of initiation reports on the company, which we think will feed into more buying activity. And I think getting the share price, at least in the short term, back up to the high teens. We did a number of European roadshows before, but we've been limited on what we've had to say. So I don't know whether to comment. I'm not surprised that of the 100 million shares that were out, so the 5 million quid, if you think, is a matter of public record, Athos took 1.6, so they were sort of 32%. So your free float was about 17. We've changed the rest of it. So I'm pretty happy to see this volume going through. So my only comment is great to see the liquidity coming back in the market. Ignacio, was there anything else that you'd like to comment or add?
Yeah, just like a recap of I joined this company in April last year, so it will be 12 months in a couple of weeks. Hopefully by then we will have delivered the two things that we really needed that I committed to when I joined this company, the CEOL. The decree has already been issued and is in its final rubber stamp stage. The PFS will be delivered by the end of March. So now the next 12 months, I imagine, will bring as many or more surprises and positive developments for CleanTech as the past 12 months. I always look to the next challenge, not to the ones that we already accomplished. So I am very eager of what's coming. I am excited of the CEOL, of what that means for the country and for the company. Also, all the differences that we can make in the next 12 months, looking for a strategic partner, hopefully starting the permitting process, also doing the final bit of drilling that we need to in order to get the reinjection in line and to get all the data that we need for the permitting process. So I think a lot of news to come. We said it would be a great first quarter for the company, and it's been a great first quarter, still finishing with the release of the PFS. And I think the next quarters will be as exciting as this one, so stay tuned. Hopefully the next time we meet, it is to discuss in detail with Dan the numbers on the PFS. We'll have the NPV, the IRR, CAPEX, OPEX. It's a pretty thorough document, more than 400 pages long, very detailed. Great job done by the team and our consultants. So I look forward to that and to what's coming in 2026 for CleanTech. Thanks for having me today. A pleasure being again with all of our enthusiastic shareholders.
Well, I think it's been a fantastic to actually get here. Obviously, it's not been the easiest of processes, but I'd go back to everybody. I still own every share I've bought from the IPO. I've never sold a single share in CleanTech Lithium, and we had a couple of very good runs. I am very committed to the company's success in terms of its capital market success and getting the story out. I've been very limited in the last year and a bit because we haven't had any news, and that rather as the optimistic broker, my job to go out and tell the story. It's been limiting because we're waiting for the sale. But with the sale coming in the PFS, we have a lot that we can work with. I've been doing a lot of work going through all of the institutions that appeared up in all our peer groups. I'm going to be lining up a lot of meetings and interviews for Ignacio. Nick on the company's IR side has been working to line up a lot of interviews with the not only financial press, but the industry press. So I think we should have a really active next couple of months, both in terms of results, but also in terms of just share price activity. So, and again, if anybody has any thoughts of other people and channels that we could use, we'd like to hear it. And Ignacio, thank you again. And we look forward to catching up with you in a couple of weeks so we can discuss the PFS.
Till the next one, then.
All right. I'll hand back to the guys. Thanks, everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you so much both for updating investors today. Please ask investors not to close this session. It should be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order the team can better understand your views and expectations. This only takes a few moments to complete and is greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the team at CleanTech Lithium PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's session. That concludes, and good afternoon to you all.